Hold up. My views are my own. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Lightning round. Dangerously close.
Recording in progress, because I don't want to miss a thing. Name that movie.
Oh, I'm not good with movies at all.
It's from
Absolutely.
It's from Armageddon. I had a guest on last summer that was one of the astronauts in Armageddon, which I thought was funny because you and I had some email exchanges about asking people for their bios. And then this
Yeah.
guest, obviously the astronauts are the most forgettable characters in that movie. It's not Bruce Willis or Steve Buscemi. It's like they're kind of the foils.
Again, movies are not my forte. Do not know movies.
Oh shit. Well, then I hope this
Go
is
for it. It'll be funny.
No,
There was
I'm
a
just
podcast someone did that was on the subject of like they would give people movies they had never seen before, and then they would have to write scripts based on what they thought the movie would be about. Like it was like Braveheart. What's that movie about? And so the comedian would write a script about it, and it was like completely ridiculous. And that's so if you want to go that direction, because I actually do, I really do love the movies that I have seen that I like, but I think 99% of movies are just complete fucking garbage, and I don't like
Well,
wasting my time on.
I actually was kind of kidding. The only movie I'm going to bring up is The People versus Larry Flint, and that's just because you have
I've seen that.
well, because you actually have you know Larry Flint, and so I was like, it's honestly we're not even going to get in the movie. Shit, I'm actually going to introduce you. My guest today is Dave Carnie. Dave Carnie is an artist and writer living in Los Angeles with his wife Tanya and two dachshunds, Pencil and Waffle. He's also known for such things as being a co-creator of Jackass, the former editor-in-chief of Big Brother Skateboard magazine, inventing the word bromance, and most importantly, becoming my new favorite pen pal. What's up, Dave?
Hello. Thank you. That's an interesting. I see where you cut and pasted all that from.
Yeah, man. Oh, yeah, your Wikipedia page is just a fantastic. It's a treasure trove of things to cut and paste. And I know that we've only been emailing for a while, but I do feel like you are my new favorite pen pal. So if I refer to you that further in the conversation, I hope that you're cool with it.
Sure.
Hey, did you know that dachshunds were originally bred to hunt badgers, and the name dachshund is actually German for badger dog?
Yes, I do. Doch means badger and hund means hound, obviously. So it's badger dog. And I wouldn't say I get upset, um, but I do get kind of a quiver or sort of a little bit itchy when I hear someone call them a dash hound. My wife's German, or at least she's first generation American. Her was from Germany and like couldn't speak English German, that level of Germany.
Oh, you guys speak
So
some
that's where we
German
got the
then.
whole docs. But yeah, so that's where we got the whole dachshund thing from. And yeah, it's yes, they hunt badgers. That's actually our dogs, our current ones right now. We're like trying to get them to chase cats out of the yard or chase rats or mice or whatever, and they're just like, badger dog, dude. You got a badger? You got a badger in the walls? I'm your dude. Right now, it's a rat. No doing it. I'm a badger dog.
Hell yeah, man. I've learned so much, honestly, just doing the absolute least to just kind of like research you because, when I reached out, it was because I was already like a giant fan of your humor, so much that you've
Thanks.
done. Oh yeah, dude. You might call me a super fan. That's why I'm going to
Mm.
continually refer to myself as your pen pal, whether or not that's totally true. Actually, to all the listeners out there who don't have pen pals often have a deeper, more like telepathic connection than real friends usually do. So if you're wondering why I seem so unprepared for an interview with Dave Carnie, who rarely gives podcast interviews, it's because I sensed that's what he would have wanted. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Yes.
I like a little bit of chaos, a lot of chaos in my life, and I think being unprepared is an invitation to chaos.
That's what I was really hoping for. Sometimes like, in the emails, first of all, I really enjoy when you respond to my emails, because like if I'm in a crowded room or a restaurant and I'll just be like, "Hey, everybody shut up. Dave just emailed me. I need to read this." Like I don't give a fuck because this mean a lot to me. Um, hey, so it says here on your Wikipedia page that this like I said, I actually wrote most of this interview this morning at 7 a.m. playing with my 11-month-old child, so that'll probably kind of shine through a
Okay,
little bit.
extra silly then. Good.
Well, we're going to definitely go into the Wikipedia. It says here on your Wikipedia page that you launched the careers of Johnny Knoxville, Steve-O, Chris Pontius, and thousands of skateboarders. Do you feel as though you've been properly thanked for giving all those people their careers?
No, I think that's one of those instances where we flag it and say everything on Wikipedia is true. I
was
actually don't know who I don't know who wrote my Wikipedia page, but there was a time Jackass was going, and there was a Russian girl, at least I think she was Russian if my memory serves, who was like making she made like Facebook pages for all of us because we were all sort of like, digitally stupid. Just I still have never really quite gotten into stuff like Facebook and whatnot, social
hell
media.
yeah.
But yeah, so she made she made one for like Tremaine, and like she did one for everybody that didn't have one, like Tremaine, Dimitri, Cossack, for me. So yeah, she made a Facebook page for me also, and so I always suspected she had something to do with that Wikipedia page, but um, she didn't. I don't think she, or I don't know because the person. So like I mentioned in my email to you, that's the portrait of me that was up there originally was like me just. I don't know. I look blackout drunk and screaming and just like a complete shitbag. Um, and it was just an embarrassing photo because I know people, would, I'd apply for a position or a project or something, and I could just sense that I wasn't getting callbacks because people would like look me up to research me. Oh, here's Wikipedia page. Just check out his Wikipedia page, and then they see that shitbag photo of me and just be like, yeah, not hiring this guy. Um, and so I finally, found, went through the back alleys of Wikipedia and found the person, the author of it, and wrote them and said, "Hey, can we change that picture of me? It's kind of fucking my shit up. And I have this much better photo of me doing an invert that maybe
Yeah.
we could put in place of it." And I wish I had done it years before because I think it was a dude, because he just changed it. I don't know why I think it was a male dude, but it got changed almost immediately. And thank you very much. So yeah, I'm
Well,
glad that
actually,
photo's
well, I would say also there are several indications that it's a dude. One, because I did copy him. I posted about this podcast before we even recorded it, and want to go ahead and say that tons and tons of listeners already hit me up being like, "Fuck yeah, hell yeah," which is funny. This is not a skateboarding podcast. Like, as you know, like when I first contacted you, you listened to my right-wing extremism from
yeah,
dating back to Aristotle, and you're like, "Hey, that's not my thing," and but I'll still fuck with you. And I was like, "Well, thanks, man." Uh, and
it was
I
a very
promise,
interesting podcast. I loved that one. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I really enjoyed it. It's a little too smart for me, but yeah, this also I don't. Not like I'm not going to do a skateboard podcast, but the fact that this isn't a skateboard podcast is a little bit more impressive or interesting to me.
I do actually. If you enjoyed that one, I do urge you to go back. If you're ever just like on an airplane and you're bored out of your fucking mind, uh, I urge you to go back to the first time I had Professor Matt McManus on. That's the guy from that one, and that was the Philip K. Dick episode. I know you're a literary dude, so I'm assuming you're probably at least familiar with him with his books.
And I don't like them.
You don't like Philip K. Dick?
I tried to go down that rabbit hole, and I don't remember which one I tried to read. And he did something like in the first 20 pages that just really annoyed me. I wish I had known this subject would come up because I could try to remember it. My memories, you're going to learn as we discuss it, my memory's complete shit.
Oh, dude, we're on the same page.
But yeah, I really wanted to like Philip K. Dick. I had this conversation with someone recently also, and they did the same thing. Like, what? You don't like Philip K. Dick? I, yeah, he did something that just bothered me so much, and up to that point, I wasn't liking it anyway. So yeah, I guess I have to try something else with him. I don't even remember which book it was.
Man, I'm at a loss to suggest anything because I mean it's all so very dated now. For me, it was at a time I was probably like 15 when Philip K. Dick was my shit that I was reading a lot of. Uh, but I would still actually even suggest that episode because it's not particularly flattering to that author in all the ways. It's more of a I don't know. That guy's a professor of philosophy, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to go
We,
somewhere else. That's another thing is maybe he's one of those authors that you kind of have to read when you're 15.
well, and that's the nostalgia, I guess, too.
Yeah.
Well, shit, man. Can I ask you a stupid question?
Another one?
Yeah,
Ah,
they're
kidding.
it says here in my notes that you do scatological humor. Is that like going like, "Hey, cool cats, beep 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 bop, boo
Oh
boo,
man.
knock knock, your mom's a bitch." I was just
I
hoping
call
I'd
that a dad joke.
damn. I'm fucking like for like
I'm a big fan
shit
of dad jokes, by the
10
way.
now. Well, I am a dad, so I'm like also before I was just throwing lame dad jokes left and right. Well, shit, let's see if God damn, I hope I wrote something good here. Oh, here we go. Fuck yeah. This matters. Uh, Despite being pen pals, I was actually unaware of your Acid Invader artwork until just a few days ago. And I feel the story of how Acid Invader got started is delightful and endearing. And can you share the history of how your Acid Invader artwork came to be?
Oh, yeah. Really, I'm having to go through the memory files. I was working at Supra Footwear, which my wife would jokingly call International Clown Shoe International, I think is what she called it. It was a weird gig. I actually enjoyed it. It was really weird. When I worked there, because it was like a hip hop, you know, sneakerhead kind of job. And it was completely foreign to my aesthetics, and I'm not a sneakerhead. I still am not a sneakerhead, but I kind of like challenges like that. And so I took that job. Also, they were paying me a lot. Couldn't say no. So yeah, I
Hell
was
yeah.
working for Supra, but it worked there for like I think like 4 years, and it was great. It was a really interesting experience working in an environment that was completely foreign to me, really. Like it was like I'm sort of aggressively creative. Like I'm of the opinion like just do it. And if it doesn't work, fuck it. Do it, do something else, fix it and do something better, whatever. But this was a very conservative environment. Um, like they didn't want to take risks. They wanted to make sure that everyone on the playground thought it would be cool. So they didn't do anything that was new. They wanted to do things that were already um, proven and that the cool kids already agreed with. Um, and it took a couple years to kind of figure that out. I would always just bring new stuff to the table, and they'd be like, "Nope." And so I soon realized that, like, well, this is not a creative position to be in, and it was just like I think the term I would use was like I was becoming creatively bankrupt, basically. And I'd come home every night, really unfulfilled, and so I just started um, making collages. Like I think that it started with a I had this dachshund calendar. There's the dachshunds again. My mother, she's one of those mothers that's just like, I have dachshunds. So she buys me anything she ever sees that has a dachshund on it. And so that's how I ended up with one of these daily calendars. It's like 365 dachshunds. Every day is a new dachshund, a new adorable dachshund, badger hound. And yeah, I think the first one I did was it was like a dachshund with its tongue sticking out, and I just cut out a little piece of paper like a tab of acid and put it on its tongue and wrote doses or doxes or something on it. And it was kind of from there that I just sort of like, you know what? I'm gonna fucking make a project out of this and just do one piece of art every night. Just do a collage just to be creative. And and it worked. It actually really was kind of fulfilling. I just make these bullshit collages every night, and they started to get more and more elaborate. Um, at first it was all the first few years actually they were all dachshund related. So I had to keep buying these dachshund calendars, which were I still have piles of pictures of dachshunds. Um, so yeah, and it just like I wasn't really into collage ever before. I was a photographer earlier in life, and my degree in college is in photography, and look how much good that's done me now that everyone has a fucking camera in their pocket. Um, there's no place for photographers in this world anymore because everyone's a photographer. Um, but so I don't know, I became really attracted to collage, and I still love it. I have a one right next to me actually that I have to finish scanning when I get off this call with you. Um, it's going to be a Strange Love graphic coming up.
And I would say too,
But
like when done right, collage is one of the coolest mediums. It's it kind of gets it gets forgotten sometimes, as
yeah, yeah, it's sort of like photography also. It's kind of considered like the junior varsity team of the art world. It's not taken as seriously as painting or sculpture. But I really enjoy it because I found that it's like I said earlier, like I love inviting chaos into my life, and my photography used to be like that. I used to just do stuff in the dark room, like wonder what this chemical would do if I poured it on the paper now, or what if I did this backwards? What if I didn't put it in the fixer and just went straight into the toner? Or what if I put some toner on it before I even put it under the enlarger? Just inviting random shit into the process. And collage is entirely that. And I love it's it's a lot of fun because it's surprising. Like I don't know what's gonna happen next. And I also tend to do it with wine and music, and I just kind of like turn off me, the I that's inside of me, and try to anyway as best I can, and just sort of let it go on autopilot and let someone else make the decisions in my brain. And so it's just uh, it's it, it's surprising. It feels like when the pieces when they're done are always really interesting to me because it's like I don't feel like I did it. It's just sort of like, oh, that's an interesting piece of art that someone sort of channeled through me or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, I really love doing so. Yeah, it's been I think that was like 2013 when that started, and I've been Jesus Christ, I've been doing them ever since. It's a long time.
And I would say everybody, check out Acid Invader. You can find it on Instagram at least. That's one place I know that it's available.
Yeah,
To see the art.
I'm kind of over Instagram because
Oh, yeah, fuck
both
them, man.
accounts are what's that?
Oh, fuck Instagram, but they're adversarial to their it used to be like the main place where I promoted this podcast, but they've become very adversarial to creators, and
Hmm, yeah.
I looked
I don't
into
pay
it.
because I'm not even on it really. I mean, I have Whalecock skateboards, but my Acid Invader was kind of my baby, but it got hacked like right at the beginning of the pandemic, and so I was like, fuck it, I'm not doing it anymore. And so, but then I decided, fuck it, I'll start another one. So I did Acid Dot Invader, and that lasted a year or so, and then that got hacked. So I'm just fucking over. I got Whalecock Skateboards, and until that gets hacked, that's the last place you'll find me on Instagram.
One of my favorite comments on the post that you were coming on, someone was like, "Oh, I've like someone was like, used to skate exclusively whale cocks." Um, man, I'm gonna go ahead and say that you said that you're a lover of chaos, and I feel like that the chaos has finally been invited in this interview because I'm gonna go ahead and admit that you're a huge influence in my life. Uh, as far as like, I went to school and majored in journalism, and it would not be out of line for me to say that you were one of the people that inspired that in me, because when I was like when skateboarding was my entire life, it's all I fucking cared about. Big Brother Skateboard magazine made me realize that like there was like a magazine could be funny and cool. So uh shit, man, half this shit that I wrote this morning, I'm actually gonna throw this fucking entire interview away and just go from here. We'll figure it out because I some fucking like juvenile like part of my like uh you know subconscious brain was like, hey, I should write an interview in the style of Big Brother. So all my fucking questions are pretty like it's like I'm asking you about your bathroom. I did the scatological joke. There's a Whalecock joke in there too. But shit, man, like if you don't mind, man, people are listening to hear about Dave Carney, and so let's just do that, dude. And the story of Big
Sure.
Brother is fascinating. Uh, as far as I understand, it was originally World Industry Skateboards. Like that's where they what they have like a zine. Is that like how like the real genesis of it
Uh,
before you?
no, it it started with Steve Rocco. You're correct. World Industries was owned by Steve Rocco, and he um Steve was the type who just would do things himself. Like I think he wanted to make hats or something, and
Yeah.
priced hats in China or whatever, hat manufacturing, and realized like it was too much. And like, fuck it. What if I just buy the machines that make hats and do it myself? And he did. That's how he would kind of operate. And he made an ad for, I don't remember which skater it was, but it was sort of like, it was just a typical World Industries ad from the time. It was just kind of tongue in cheek. And it was like the skater couldn't make a trick. And he thought it was the end of the world, and so there was a photo of him with a gun to his head with, like I'm gonna kill myself because I can't fucking make this trick or whatever it said. And Transworld, the other dominant magazine at the time, was Thrasher and Transworld. Um, the owners of Transworld were uh, Christian, basically, and they were like, "There's gonna be no suicide in our magazine," and
That explains a lot. You know, I recently interviewed the former editor in chief of Transworld Snowboard magazine,
mhm.
and no offense, but I did feel a very Christian vibe.
Yeah.
And no offense to all the Christians listening.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and so he rejected the ad, and Rocco was like, then fuck it, I'll just start my own magazine. And that's how Big Brother was born.
So, how'd you come into the picture?
Um, I was in college in San Luis Obispo, skating, making art, making photography, and Tobin Yelland, who I lived with in San Francisco previously, he's a skate photographer, legendary skate photographer, and an old friend. Um, and Thomas Campbell kind of lived with us, and Chris Reed and Chris Pontius. We had like a little scene in San Luis Obispo. And so when Big Brother started, when the first issue came out, I think it was Tobin who made the connection with them. As a skate photographer, he wanted to sell skate photos, and this new magazine had come out. Um, and there was a very strong artistic leaning amongst in that first issue of Big Brother. It was just kind of silly, and there was a lot of humor, and it sort of matched up with what we were doing. And I think it was Tobin. It was just sort of like, Dave, you should, they're into this kind of shit. You should submit some photos um to this new mag. And so I shot a photo of Chris Pontius board sliding a handrail, and I was kind of known for like the way I printed photos back then. I'd use a lot of chemicals, and they'd look kind of dirty. Um, and so I submitted that photo. They loved it, and it ran in issue two, um, which is the big issue. But so me and Pontius both sort of entered the picture in issue two, and from there we just became friends with the staff, and that just became more and more. We became more and more a part of the magazine as time went on.
Yeah, he's well known, obviously, for the Jackass the franchise, the show and stuff.
Yeah,
But I would go as far as to say uh, he was, I think, the other person I thought was the funniest, probably writer. There's so
yeah,
many funny writers. The music interviews with Chris Naratico.
Morocco, yeah.
Rocco, yeah. I remember Chris Pontius had a thing he would do where he would write into businesses, like pretend letters, and be displeased with like his service there to try to get free shit, but like in an insane way. It was the thing. It was like it wasn't a skateboard magazine. It was a whole world. You would like, every month I would just be so fucking stoked to read that magazine.
Um, I'm not gonna split hairs, but actually that was me that wrote those.
Oh, that
Those
was
letters.
you? Oh, thank
Because it was
God.
inspired by, and I'm not even gonna take credit for it because I just want to set the right. Those were inspired by a book by Ted Nancy called Letters from a Nut, which I think everyone should check out. They're really fucking funny. I think there's like 3 or 4 of
Yeah,
those books.
I remember you
And
saying that. Okay,
yeah, it's like, and so yeah, because I wrote that in the article because you can't just rip that shit off. I just like, look, I read this book, it made me fucking laugh my ass off. I want to play this game. And
yeah.
what he taught me was that you can write corporations and they kind of have to write you back. It's customer service. And so he would just write them these insane queries, questions, suggestions, just complete fucking nonsense that was really intelligent, really clever, and really funny. Um, like every letter was just, LOL, laughing my ass off. And so I wanted to play. And so yeah, I remember I wrote Coors, I wrote
You wrote
yeah, I got
to
the
a
Coors
taco
one.
restaurant. Like, oh,
Oh
sorry, go
yeah, Del
ahead.
Taco, me and Pontius, we got
You
busted.
told them
You
that
go to
they had to send a letter to your family saying that the restaurant made you angry and it was their fault, and uh that the
Yeah, well,
only reason.
what happened was that there was this Del Taco right by where I lived that was in Hollywood, and it was like this notoriously fucked up Del Taco. Like it was just lots of homeless people and just lots of crazy shit all night long. And so and they had a drink monitor because what people would do, and we did, is like you go in there and you'd order, a taco or whatever, and a glass of water, and then you drink the water and then go fill it up with soda. And so they had a security guard that just would monitor that so that you couldn't take free sodas. And I went and I did that with the water, and he just marched over, took it out of my hand. I was trying to pour soda, and he just took it out of my hand, poured it out, and just was like, "Get out of here!" And it was so weird and strange. And me and Pontius were just laughing our asses off. So that's when I wrote about that incident to Del Taco, posing myself as a father of a family who would go there to eat packets of hot sauce because it was cheap and free, and the rude drink monitor, that's what I called him, the rude drink monitor embarrassed me in front of my family and my children, and that I needed them to write an apology. Um, I don't really remember the details of it, but that
You
was
said
the gist of it.
you told them to write them a letter that like this is actually burned into my memory. This is not because I have read this since you wrote it. Literally, I recall that you said to tell them that it was their fault and daddy will never yell again or something something along
Well,
those
yeah,
lines.
I'm sure it was something like that. But yeah, their letter back was basically no.
Yeah, that was okay. Well, sorry to mix that up with Pontius. I do remember him doing this has to be correct. Him doing a beaver hunt for where he
He
would dress
did.
up in lingerie and try to submit himself as a hot wife to
Yeah.
Hustler magazine. I think
Yeah.
were you guys under Flint Publications at that point?
Yeah, it was because uh the the person at LFP who had to handle beaver hunt it was sort of like a rite of passage. Like when you like there was like it was almost like hazing. Like when you were new working for Hustler, that was your job, was to handle the beaver hunt submissions. And so we befriended that dude. We befriended everyone at Hustler, but that dude was named Tim at the time, and Tim had on his desk these 2 boxes that was like yeses and nos, like beaver hunt submissions, so like Polaroids and photos and whatnot. And so there was just these 2 boxes of nude photos, and the ones that were like for possible publication were bad enough. But the ones that were in the note box were like horrifying. Just I it just make it, even just thinking about it right now, like just sort of like makes you want to never have sex again. Like it was just they were just gross, such fucking gross photos. And I think sort of Pontius's angle was like he could just as a man he could do better than anyone in that box. And so
Yeah.
that's so he posed and submitted, and of course it was rejected. But this it's the thought that counts. He had the spirit, the
Yeah,
beaver
man.
spirit.
And speaking of the spirit though, like shit, dude, I mean, you had what a 14-year run with that magazine?
I think
I
it
mean,
was like 12 or 13, but I always say 14 just because it feels better that it felt like longer than 14 years even. But yeah, it's like 13 or 14 years.
so I mean, like I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna plug your book real quick because uh as soon as the interview is over, I personally am going to go obtain a copy of the book Boob by
Hmm.
Dave Carney, and I urge everyone listening to do so as well. But just kind of going into that book, you got like the Pucano, the Depends Olympics. Shit, man. Maybe like just let's just like it's kind of like your greatest hits of all those years. Is that kind of like a fair to say for that book?
Yeah, I just wanted to collect all of my writing from those 14 years in one place. And yeah, it became it's yeah, it's a piece of furniture, the amount of words that are in that thing. It's a big book.
So, how would you describe aggressive street dancing?
I I I describe it exactly as you just did. It's aggressive street dancing. It's dancing in the street aggressively.
So kind of it's like an alternative to skating.
Yeah. I guess it was probably a an ancestor of parkour. Um,
Okay, you know what, man? I'm just gonna go into the shit that I actually did, right? Because I'm kind of drowning as an interviewer here, which never happens to me. I'm actually a professional. Uh, anyway, there's as you told me that like, I could find a lot of flattering quotes for that book, and also by some hotshot famous people, such as this one by Spike Jones. I met Carney at Big Brother, and he was the biggest dick. It wasn't until 4 years later, when he was drunk at Jeff's apartment, that he was suddenly nice to me. I'm not sure how I won him over, but it took years of trying. Uh, two-part question. Why did you not like Spike Jones? And then why did you like him?
um, well, the operative word in his quote is, didn't you say drunk in there?
Yes. Oh,
I
you
don't
liked him
remember.
because you were drunk.
Yeah, I don't remember not liking Spike, and I don't remember. I have no idea what he's talking about. But I really enjoy Spike. Actually, speaking of when I was talking about Wikipedia earlier, I was on a flight with Spike. We were doing something in Oklahoma. We were shooting some motorcycle thing, and on the flight, I play Sudoku on on flights just because I can't handle watching people board the airplane. It drives me fucking crazy watching people not being able to find their seats and sitting in the wrong seat and not being able to fucking stow their luggage. And so I just bury myself in a Sudoku game. And Spike was sitting next to me, and he'd see like I'd almost fill a square, there'd be like one square left, and he'd lean over and be like, "That's a four."
What a
And I'd be
fucker.
like, "Thanks, Spike." And so when I got home, it just became kind of a joke about him being like the Sudoku world champion, and that he had these magical Sudoku skills. And so I went into his Wikipedia page and I wrote a whole, I made a whole full section um, on Spike's fictional Sudoku career. And I was very proud of myself that I was able to actually even do that, to like find my way around the back alleys of Wikipedia and post this nonsense. But the author of that page, man, he was quick, or she was quick, whatever. They would fucking delete that thing like within a minute. Fortunately I was able to get a screen grab the second time I put it up. Got a screen grab real quick, and I just started fucking with the person. I just kept putting it up every day, and like then they would take it down. Then I got bored of it, but um,
Yeah, I would
yeah,
imagine he has
Spike's a
a
Sudoku champion. That's what I really love about Spike is his Sudoku skills.
I
He's
would
good.
imagine he has a legion of people that will keep his Wikipedia safe because I used to have it. It was a collection of his music videos. I had it on VHS. So it was like Beastie Boys and Bjork
Mhm.
and Dinosaur Jr. And I was like, this guy will be beloved forever for this VHS tape he put out. So there has to be like, people on guard at all times. Like, do not let anyone fuck with Spike's Wikipedia page.
Sure.
Uh, well, shit, man. Actually, hey, do you mind giving me like a quick 2 minute break? I need to check on my dog, and I'll be
Yeah, of
back
course.
as fast as possible. She is fantastic. Actually, she is part dachshund.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's a Doberman dachshund. She's a bunch of shit. I got her from the pound. She's
Does she chase
fantastic.
parts of badgers?
Uh, you know, she'll kill anything, man. It's so I really try not to like let her do it, but it's inevitable. Uh, one of my one of the gnarliest stories I have. Let's just talk about dogs for a minute. Fuck it. There used to be this kind of like alternative high school by where I at my old house, and the principal there like was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, we don't use the fields because the kids here like don't go outside and do sports. So at any time of the day, you could just be out there with your dog. And I was like, well, great, thanks, man. And I was out there, and my dog was digging in their bushes and found a baby deer. And the baby deer started running, and then she was chasing that, and then the mom came out of another bunch of bushes and cut my dog off and made her chase her. And so at the time, man, I wouldn't say that I'm a great runner. In fact, I wouldn't even say I'm a good runner, but I was invested because my dog took off after that deer into the streets of the neighborhood, and I was running at full sprint until I realized like I have a car, and I was like, "Fuck, I should run to the car." And so I ran to the car, got in the car, drove it in the street, sweating, out of breath. Saw some lady watering her lawn, and I was like, "Have you seen a dog and a deer?" And she's like, "Yeah, they ran by. The dog went back." And so I went back, and she was waiting there for me patiently. It's a very good dog.
Good, good. So the dog didn't catch the deer?
Nah, she probably could have though.
Hmm.
I think she's like gentle at heart, but like, well, that's bullshit. I've seen her kill like um, several cute little animals in the woods.
Yeah. Pencil over here has saw him shake a rat. Um, There's a rat behind our washing machine. I kind of shoot it out with a broom and like went right into Pencil's mouth, and he dispatched of that thing in like a nanosecond. It was just like shake the baby dead. And it's like, whoa,
That's the thing.
violence.
The thing is, I'm glad that my dog can eat rats and hunt them down in the house. Like that's like a good thing for a dog to do. And you
Mhm.
don't have to you don't have to have a cat to do it. You can just have a dog do
Yeah, these two
it.
guys are now. I think that's gonna be his one and only kill that I know of. He's old and tired now. He's a lap dog. He likes to sleep.
Yeah, man. Do you mind if I let's just like jump back to the Big Brother shit for just a minute and then
Sure.
move somewhere else. But so like Larry Flint was your boss, I guess, for years. Did you have to like take meetings with him, or was he kind of like a Wizard of Oz behind the scenes kind of guy?
The latter. He wasn't really involved with Big Brother. And in fact, the only times I ever met with him was by our request. If we needed him for, some sort of an appearance in the magazine that we thought would be funny. And then the only other times you'd see him is if you ran into him in the elevator in his gold wheelchair, which was always a nerve-wracking ride. Um,
Well, that's
he's
crazy.
kind of
Was it
scary.
was it real gold? Like for real?
It was. Well, as far as I know, I actually don't know for sure, but I was told it was actually a actual gold-plated wheelchair. We were good friends with or I was good friends with his assistant at the time, Stephanie. Um, she was really cool, so I would always hear what was going on on the ninth floor. His office was on the ninth floor, and the ninth floor was just this ridiculous museum of gaudy, shitty art and sculptures, and it was just it was just vomit everywhere. It was just a vomit of style, like it was sort of rococo. What's the term for someone like nouveau riche? Like he came from wherever he was from, and he's like grew up a hillbilly. So you give that guy millions
Yeah.
of dollars, and like that's what it ends. That's what they think is art.
According
Um,
to the movie, as I recall, Courtney Love in the film is his wife, and Woody Harrelson plays Larry Flint. And there's a
yeah.
yeah, they're like really poor, and then there's a part where like Hustler suddenly succeeds, and she's like, "I've never had sex with a millionaire before." It's one of the main quotes I recall. However,
Mhm.
my favorite scene in the movie, which is also a true story, is that he showed up to court wearing the American flag as a diaper and wearing a Vietnam helmet, like Marine helmet
Mhm.
after he'd been shot. He was in a
Yeah.
wheelchair.
Yeah, he was I mean, love him or hate him, and there's a lot of things to hate about him. But he was funny. He was pretty provocative. I don't, what was your question before? Did I meet him? No, so yeah, he wasn't
Oh,
involved
I was wondering if
really
you had
in.
to like sit down at a desk with him and just
No, he had like, vice presidents and presidents that we dealt with more often than him, that we would have to meet with about stuff. He was kind of hands off. He was very generous to us in some ways. Um, the magazine probably should have been killed a year earlier than it was, just because of the lack of revenue that it was bringing in. But he let it go. He kind of liked it. He thought we were funny. He did have a lot of interesting rules, I guess. Like one was, there was no guns allowed in any of his magazines, because
wow.
when you get shot, you don't like guns.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, that was and that was also kind of a catch 22 for us. I don't like guns either, but the we'd have to, and we didn't, there was no guns in the editorial. It was like we'd get an ad from some whatever, some fucking Janko company or something that thought it would be cool to have a gun in their ad, and we'd have to say no, which sucked, because as I just said, part of the reason the magazine died was because it wasn't getting enough ad revenue. And some of the few ads we were getting, occasionally one would have a gun and we'd have to say no.
Yeah.
But
And you know what? Well, fuck it. I respect that. Especially, like I mean, I've never like, studied the life of Larry Flint, but I saw the film, depicting his life. And for a dude like that, especially like, being a dude who's like probably one of the horniest dudes in the world, to have a sniper shoot him in the spine and like stop him from having sex for the rest of his life. The fact that he like was able to find joy in like freedom of speech, like, I admire that. He took it all the way to
yeah,
the Supreme Court.
yeah, I mean, the case that he won, that freedom of speech case, is like, we all owe him a debt of gratitude. It's like I said, like, love him or hate him, and my wife does not appreciate him very much. But he did do that for us. Like, he really took one for the team. Like,
Yeah, there's a scene with I just keep saying people that aren't the actual people, just the actors. But Edward Norton is like, you might not like what Larry Flint does. I don't like what Larry Flint does, but Larry Flint has the right to do what he does. That was kind of like
oh yeah, Ed
being a
Norton was his lawyer in it, right?
very powerful speech in that film.
Yeah.
Anyway, as I promised, that's probably the only movie I'm going to really bring up. Actually, we're going into the lightning round, and we'll just kind of like,
Lightning round type.
oh, that's where I start asking you questions
Question.
like super fast, and I like demand that you answer as quickly as possible with no, no cerebral, like no intellectual thought about it. It's all gut reactions. But I prefer to just actually,
Okay.
I'll just ask you these questions like real questions, because that might be some of the more genuine ones anyway. Um, this is pretty hard to ask, but what is your favorite article that you've ever written? Like, I know in a lightning round, then you just kind of have to answer, but we're just kind of going mellow. And I know you've written for Rolling Stone, Vice. You've written for every fucking buddy, dude. Uh, is there anything that just stands out in your mind as be like, this was the coolest, funnest,
No.
most interesting thing I
No.
ever did? Nothing?
No.
No?
No, I don't.
Can you do a top
I,
10?
I guess it's sort of like collage. Or it's just sort of like the one I'm working on right now. It's always the one that I'm working on is the one that's my favorite. And also, what's funny, I will say that this is actually something that I've noticed frequently. This is a frequent um, thing that happens is when I spend a lot of time on an article or a story or whatever, and I really like it and I'm really proud of it, no one gives a shit about it. It's and conversely, articles that I dash off in 5 minutes or whatever tend to be the ones that I hear about the most from other people. Like, oh, I really remember blah 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 that you wrote. I love that article. And it's like, I didn't fucking spend any time on that at all. That took me 2 seconds to fucking make that. And it always feels strange. That the stuff that I put the least effort into. So again, maybe that's why I like collage so much right now, is I'm learning from my history, is that like people seem to like it when you don't actually involve yourself in it and you just kind of do it automatically without really thinking. So yeah, people the deer, I know that deer Coors or Deer del Taco has come up a few times. People have um remember that one, which again, like I don't really take credit for that. And I stole that from Ted Nancy.
Well,
Um,
you adopted the idea from someone. I mean, you didn't steal the joke. I mean, that
yeah, no,
I
I,
I cried laughing. I remember it to this day. I read that when I was 16 years old, and that, and I remember it right now. I mean, that's like a testament to how fucking funny. I guess like it's man, I guess we need to like maybe just take a moment for like so many people that watch Jackass and shit, but have no idea like how fucking funny Big Brother Skateboard Magazine was, and how so I ended up going to school to get a degree in journalism that I didn't really pursue, but I'm gonna go ahead and like say like I was influenced by I read a lot of Hunter S. Thompson, of course, like who didn't, but
mhm.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm not gonna just I'll just blow smoke at you constantly, but like Big Brother Skate Magazine like made me believe that like journalism could be fun and cool. Does that make sense?
Um, yeah, I mean, everything can be fun. I don't know if everything can be cool. I don't even know what that is, but
Or
and
like
we weren't journalists. I don't I might have been the only one who had really any sort of like college experience with writing and literature. But most of the staff didn't have any like training as writers or journalists. Pontius exactly was it was just this kind of like this rare collection of individuals who all sort of taught themselves. Like Narako wasn't a writer. I mean, he was a writer when he came to us, but he's wasn't like trained as a writer. Mark McKee um, wasn't a writer. Sean Cliver wasn't a writer. Sean Cliver and Mark McKee were the artists for World Industries, and it was just the only reason they were writing was because that the magazine needed words. And it just so happened that all these people were really good at writing. Pontius, especially as a really interesting case, just because he didn't even go to college. He would when he'd write, it was just this ability to be able to put down on paper, in quotes, um, their thoughts or what they wanted to say, and just they kind of wrote how they talked, how they spoke. And this, I found it was weird that all these people kind of came together and all had this same skill, but it's actually very rare because we would try and bring other people into the magazine to write, like people in skateboarding who had these amazing stories, like Bill Weiss, amazing stories, can't fucking write a word. Rob Dyrdek, amazing stories, also can't fucking write. Giovanni Retta, the photographer, the guy has the most amazing stories in the world, can't fucking find the key on the keyboard. And I think that's actually kind of what it comes down to, is a lot of people who can't write are people who like can't type, or can't write or something. Because if you're looking for where the fucking R is on the keyboard, how are you going to get your thoughts across? And we encountered that so many times. So many skaters, like we'd hear these amazing stories and be like, dude, you should fucking write that story for the magazine. We'll print it. They couldn't write it. They just could not do it. So it was really weird that we had all of these people who weren't trained as writers, had no experience in writing, who became some of the most amazing writers, like I said, like Cliver, McKee, Earl Parker, um, Norako, even Dimitri was fucking good at writing. Like
Yeah.
all these people are, and it just became kind of a thing. And no one, we didn't like train, we didn't talk about it, we didn't fucking have a philosophy or anything. There was one. I will say one thing is one of the best pieces of advice I got was from Mark McKee, and it was like really early on in Big Brother when I first started, and I was still living in San Francisco, and I was really under the influence of Louis Ferdinand Celine, who would sort of, oh, and Samuel Beckett as well. So those two authors and Joyce, but Celine's, um, and I was heavily borrowing from those three. And Celine would do this thing. He called it his little music, where he'd sort of his novels are sort of autobiographical and sort of like nonfiction, just stretched into fiction. And like I said, he called his little music, and so I was doing that. Essentially, I would go to a contest or something, and I I would write it. I would add a lot of fictional elements to it, essentially. The contest or whatever it was would be the basis for the story. And then I would just sort of spin off into these weird, whatever psychedelic, surreal scenarios and nonsense. And Mark McKee at one, like pretty early on, was like, "Hey, can you fucking knock it off with the fiction? Like, we don't need fiction. There's no fiction in this magazine because reality is weird enough as it is." I don't know what his exact words were, but it really hit home, and it was sort of an epiphany. And I immediately switched that shit off. Like, okay, you're right. Why am I fucking doing this? Adding all this random shit that didn't happen in it. Like,
Yeah.
no, this is nonfiction. And so we didn't have any journalist training, and we didn't consider ourselves journalists, and we didn't consider the skateboard community anything worth reporting on either. It was just we were reporting on ourselves, or we were recording ourselves. Of course, over time we learned journalistic practices and how to be honest and that sort of thing, in your writing, what you're reporting on, and not fictionalizing things. But yeah, journalism was not what we were doing. Um,
I mean, you guys had kind of a lightning in a bottle type situation that, I mean, if I could say that, because it's kind of like, I don't think I've ever seen something quite like it since,
yeah, I've never worked anywhere or with a group of people that I was so close with and aligned with creatively. I always like to use the analogy of, I'm not a Star Trek nerd, but I do appreciate Star Trek. And there was one, the Borg. I don't know if they're an enemy or friends, but it's sort of they fly around in a square cube, and it's this colony of
yeah, the
whatever.
Borg. Yeah,
Uh,
the Borg. They're like, that's my
yeah, the
favorite Star
Borg.
Trek
They're like a
cartoon.
hive. They're like a beehive, and they all
Yeah.
sort of, or ant colony. They sort of all operate on one like collective unconscious or collective consciousness. I don't know. Um, Maybe some Star Trek people listening to this can
Oh, dude, I
feel
know
this.
about the Borg. That's like my favorite Star Trek enemy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And that was sort of like how Big Brother staff was. We all kind of had the same thoughts, and so much so that like we would often argue about who created what. It was because
Yeah,
we
yeah.
just are kind of all on the same page, all doing the same thing, and all thinking the same way. There was lots of fights over that. Like, I fucking thought of that. No, you didn't. I thought of it. I said it in this meeting.
I imagine like
So yeah.
too, it's like so many creative people, probably some egos. Uh, I mean, and also like you know, in my opinion, and also just in everyone's opinion, the whole Jackass thing, going back to that, that's everyone generally believes it was or it's generally said that it was Big Brother Skateboard Magazine, the videos you produced, like number two, and then CKY, the shit that Bam Margera and Toy Machine were doing out there, and that kind of like melded together. I honestly, to tell you the truth, I don't really know the whole story of how you guys got linked up and how the fuck that became a TV show. but correct me if I'm wrong, but I have kind of felt that like the person who's kind of kept the Big Brother spirit alive the most in the Jackass films has kind of been Chris Pontius, because he does seem to like every once in a while do kind of like a literary reference. I don't know if that's fair to say.
Yeah, Chris is really cool. Yeah, Jackass is essentially Big Brother. I mean, it was a Big Brother video without the skateboarding.
Yeah.
And Cliver, I think, just kind of gave me a new history or origin story for Jackass, which is slightly different than the one I've always had in my head, which was
Cool.
that like we were making these videos, and then Knoxville came to LA, and we met him sort of through friends of friends, and he was trying to become a writer and an actor, and so he wanted to do an article on he wanted to do that self-defense article essentially, and the one piece that he was missing was the bulletproof vest to shoot himself, and no magazine would give him the money. No one would pay for it. Surprise. um,
Was that prior to the Larry Flint no guns rule?
um,
Because he
no, it was during no, well, no, it was during that time. It was when we were at LFP that
so
happened.
shit
It
like
was like
Larry
late.
Flint like just he was like, okay, one gun only if you shoot yourself.
Well, yeah, no, yeah, it's a good question. I don't know how that actually happened. I don't know if there was a did the
Maybe it
gun
just
end up
slipped through
in
the
the
cracks.
magazine?
I mean,
It might have slipped through the cracks also. We slipped lots of things through the cracks at LFP.
I do recall that being like in in the lore. That's the how Johnny Knoxville became the jackass that was so
Yeah, it was like
admired.
he did that self-defense thing. Like we were like, we'll pay for it. That's cool. That sounds like something we'd be into. So we became friends with Knoxville. He wrote some stuff for us, and sort of since Sean told me this story recently that kind of differs from mine, I'll just say mine a little shorter. Is like basically Spike was MTV's darling at the time. You know, he had made the Beastie Boys videos and all that stuff, and MTV really wanted him to do more stuff with them. Jeff was kind of looking at other things to do as well. Like he wanted to go bigger. And then there was Knoxville who had, so much ambition and just wanted to, make all these crazy fucking Knoxville wanted to be big. Um,
Yeah.
and so that's when the idea came to like, why don't we just fucking make the Big Brother videos and just kind of like eliminate the skateboarding from it and just do the stuff that was in between. Um, and that became Jackass. I think the term, I don't know if this is disputed or not, but I'm pretty sure Jackass came from me and Pontius because that was a word we were using a lot at the time. It was just like we were fans of using old timey language, and we'd just be like, "You jackass." Um,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't feel like I can use that word anymore. They kind of like took it away. Um,
It has lost a lot of its sting now that it's a
so then, yeah, so then
major franchise.
they made the pilot, which was a lot of me actually. There was a lot of stuff from the Big Brother videos. I'm proud to say. But no one gives a shit about that because the one thing everyone wanted to see was the self-defense video, which was at the end of it of Knoxville tasering himself, pepper spraying himself, and then shooting himself with the um the bulletproof vest. And so that tape, it was back when tapes were floating around, a VHS tape, like they submitted it to whatever, a few networks and MTV being one of them. And that tape became sort of, I guess, legendary amongst like Hollywood elite and producers and all that kind of shit. And so it got picked up pretty quick. It was like then MTV put it in. So that's how it started. It was Spike, Jeff, and um, Knoxville who were pretty much the ones who brought that to reality to ruin the world.
I have a question that I feel like never gets asked, or you know, if we're talking about Jackass, obviously, I mean, um, you with Big Brother, like the Genesis, we all know where Bam Margera came from. We all know where Chris Pontius came from. We all know where Johnny Knoxville came from. Uh, we all know where Wee Man came from, pro skater. But like, how did all these other dudes get like just this sweet deal? Like being, I mean, like I know, like there's pain involved and humiliation, but like how did that like happen? I mean, it just seems like a kind of out of nowhere, like a huge crew, and it's been like locked in ever since.
Um, I don't really know. I can't tell you a funny story about Steve-O.
Oh yeah, I'd love to do
He
that.
he well, he annoyed his way into our hearts, essentially. He was just relentless. He was so fucking annoying. And I say this with much love to Steve-O. I love him. He's like such an awesome dude. He's a great friend. Um, but and he'll tell you the same thing, is he was just a fucking annoying cocksucker. He just would not leave us alone. Um, just constantly badgering us with, hey, guys, hey, look at this. Let me do this. I want to come. And he just like he's just one of those friends that would
I
just
don't want
always
to.
there,
I don't want to
throw
interrupt you,
himself in
but
there.
that was the best Steve-O impersonation I've ever heard. I mean, that
Pretty
was
easy to do.
haunting. I can't do it like that. I mean, that was perfect.
And he'll be the first to tell you that he was an annoying prick back then. So that's how he did it. I'm not really sure how some of the other ones, like Dave England was just friends of ours. Was a professional snowboarder and was running Blunt magazine. Um, he was kind of part of our circle already anyway. Danger Aaron also kind of friends with Dave England, sort of these people are outside of our circle, but were easily brought into our circle. I can't really think of who else, but that's their core group.
Preston
Um,
Lacey.
Preston, I don't really know what Preston's origins are. Friends with Wee Man, I think, is how that happened. I don't really know what Preston's awesome too. He's the sweetest guy in the world.
Yeah, he seems
Maybe
like
that's how he got it. He's just the nicest
genuine.
guy in the world.
Well, hell yeah, man. Let me see like what else I have written here because honestly, oh, I was actually gonna ask the gossip edition of the lightning round. We could run through that real quick,
The what
and
what?
then well, we turned the lightning round into just regular talking.
Sure.
But this part I wrote down. Okay, lightning round gossip edition. Which celebrity have you interviewed that was the most offended by your interviewing style? If that's okay to ask.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Um, well, I'm having trouble thinking of an interview that I did that caused that. But I
I
will
was
say
gonna say
that
like Depeche Mode.
Ronnie James Dio.
Dito. That's
Um,
yes, that's what I was gonna think.
the
That
well, that one's interesting because it happened that was filmed part for Big Brother, part for Jackass, because Jackass was just starting, and Narako, who was the master of interviews, he's the best. He went into that. We just found, I don't know where it appeared. It appeared somewhere recently, but that tape, which is it's out there now, you can see it. But at the time, it was just legend. It's like Narako interviewed Dio and only asked like two or three questions before Dio wanted to fight him. And if you watch the video of it, you'd see like he goes into that interview. It's at the House of Blues in Hollywood, and like there's some like fucking Dio fans that are outside in the lobby, and they tell Narako like all these things like not to ask Dio. And so Narako's like writing it down, like, okay, what don't I ask him? They're like, don't ask him about how tall he is. And I was like, and we're already gonna ask that because he's a little fella. And so yeah, this first thing he does when he goes in to interview Dio is he calls him, like, what's his name? Ronnie James Dio? I think he calls him Robbie, like right off the bat.
yeah.
And Ronnie
Also,
corrects him.
for all the
Uh,
younger listeners, Dio was a rock star. So I just feel like some people might not know that right now.
for all the younger listeners, Ronnie James Dio is a piece of shit.
And a
Uh,
piece of shit also. So put that
God, he's
on
a
record.
fucking turd. Like you don't want to just like dislike people, but that guy was fucking such a turd. He's on record as saying that he was is Black Sabbath, like that he's more Black Sabbath than Ozzy was Black Sabbath, and it's just like what
Wait,
planet are you, dude?
what instrument did he play?
The microphone,
Wait,
but
so
yeah, he's.
he played the okay, I'm sorry. I'm
I don't
confused.
know. Look up Ronnie
I thought
James
I thought you were
Dio.
saying he was like I thought you were saying he was in Black Sabbath.
He was the singer for Black Sabbath for
Oh,
I think half.
after Ozzy left.
Yes.
Okay, I
Uh,
don't know a bunch of I don't. There's a ton of shit I
yeah.
don't know, man.
For the younger
I have
interviewer who's interviewing me right now,
beginner
Ronnie James
mindset,
Dio was
dude.
the singer for Black Sabbath for a little while.
It's good to always have a beginner mindset because you can always learn that way.
Yeah.
And don't
Um,
feel ashamed when you don't know something. That's what I always
but yeah, go look up quotes from Dio. His quotes are pretty astounding. So it wasn't surprising that like first like Narako just pissed him off like right off the bat, and I think Dio's first question back to Chris is like, "Do you want me to beat you up right now?" And I Chris like, "Hey man." So it turned into this like a fight didn't occur, but there was a bit of a scuffle, a bit of a kerfuffle, and everyone ran basically in all directions because Dio's security was trying to fight, and they wanted the tapes and everything, and so the cameras got hidden, and everyone ran away, and the tapes from that interview disappeared in typical Big Brother fashion. And so for years we only heard about this interview with Dio, wanting to fight Narako and like, and man, when we finally they found it at MTV, whatever, a few years ago, and it did not disappoint. I was pleasantly surprised that like it was actually like Dio. It was the situation was worse than I thought it had been just based on the stories. So that was a good example of our interview style causing. Would you like who was the most disappointed? I think Ronnie James Dio was the most disappointed in our interviewing style.
Oh yeah. And I'll go ahead and say this too. Um, the last time I got in a physical fight, I was 21 years old. And guys, that's not really how you solve problems. It's how you make problems. It's also how you get police called on you. So I don't know. I imagine Dio is not a young guy.
No, he's also very little.
I mean, if
He's just
he's
a
like,
little.
if he replaced Ozzy and he wants to fight people, I mean, I don't know. Some people just never get over that shit. They're like that middle school mentality like follows them for their entire life.
He's also, like I said, he's very short. So I think that short man complex probably had something to do with it too. Like look up quotes from him. You can see in his quotes how insecure and angry he is about everything. He's just sort of always trying to prove himself. Fucking weird.
Well, Dave, I have
By the
one
way,
last.
I'd like to
Oh,
just point out that I
yeah.
answered that question. Like I want to point out that I actually answered that question. I went from beginning to end and I provided a full answer to it. I'm very proud of myself that I was actually able to keep it together.
Oh, you nailed it. Um,
Thank you.
I did have to say though, I have one last question. It's the most important question of the day, and it is this: um, how can people find your art, find the things you've written, anything you would like to share for everybody to like to go check out? Dave Carney.
Yeah. Well, obviously you can just fill in the search engine field, right? Dave Carney and see what comes up. Um, but you can go to my website, acidinvader.com. There you can check out some art. I need to update that. And the other place is at Whalecock Skateboards, all one word. That's my Instagram handle. And I don't like to talk about things that are coming soon. I'm kind of the opinion that just we're inundated with so much fucking shit every day that like just let me know when it's ready and I'll come look at it. But I do have another project coming soon and I'll be announcing it on Whalecock Skateboards.
Oh yeah, guys, you heard it here first. Go to Whalecock, and if you skate, get a Whalecock. Um, Dave, thank you so much. I know I've been kind of badgering you, which is so funny because your dogs literally are trained to kill people like me.
I would love how
But
you did that. That's a nice one.
it was off the top of my head. But I've been badgering you to do this podcast, and it means so much to me that you came and did it. So thank you so much, dude. And I hope you have an awesome weekend.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. I enjoyed it, Doug. It was a lot of fun. Let's keep in touch.
Hell yeah. Pen pals for life.
No, you can't say pen pal anymore. You've reached your quota on that word.
Don't. Okay. Friends for life?
Sure.